Welcome back. So today we will try to discuss something further about the male reproductive system. And in male reproductive system, we already covered the part related to the male reproductive system as such, the organ wise, and then we also discussed the related ducts and the glands associated with the male reproductive system. So let us go and see the slide. What are the different content in the male reproductive system once again. So these are the four distinct organ, duct, glands, and some of the organ system associated with the male reproductive system. So two testes, like a pair of testes, accessories ducts, glands that includes prostate, bulbourethral, seminal vesicle, and then the external genitalia in the form of penis are the male reproductive system part in case of human beings. Now, we will, before moving into the female reproductive system, let us try to see the basic internal picture of seminiferous tubules. So, what we discussed is seminiferous tubules. Now, these seminiferous tubules are the tubes that is actually associated with the structure, the actual formation of sperms. Now, if you see closely the cross section of the seminiferous tubule. So, suppose this is a cross section of a seminiferous tubule. So, this is roughly in the form of a tube like structure, and then in this, so they have this basement membrane. So, they have a basement membrane, we simply call it basement membrane, and from basement membrane we have different cells lying the lining of this basement membrane, and these cells are called, so these are having nucleus, and these cells are called spermatogonia. Spermatogonia. A spermatogonial cell is dividing, and after division they are giving to this divided cell in the form of spermatid. So, this after division this is giving spermatid, and this spermatid after maturation is forming the spermatozoa, because they have a flagella that can help in movement, that is why they are called as zoa. So, in the middle we have this lumen. So, each spermatozoa is kind of arranging itself towards the lumen, and from this lumen this is migrating towards the ductal system. So, in general this is the picture. So, the things are getting migrated from the basement membrane. So, the spermatogonial cell is giving rise to spermatozoa, and from this spermatid actually, and from this spermatid we are getting mature spermatozoa that is lining towards the lumen. So, this is called lumen, towards the lumen, and from there it is migrating towards the vas deferens and other outside external ductal system. Now, to mature, in order to mature the sperm here in this environment, they need a constant nourishment. So, nutrient is a very important aspect in order to grow this spermatid or spermatozoal cells here in this environment. So, there are very specialized kind of cells available in this area, and these specialized cells are important in order to nourish the growing spermatozoa here in this seminiferous tubule. These cells are called as Sertoli cell. Sertoli cell. Sometimes it is also called as nurse cell, because they are nursing the growing spermatozoa. So, these are also called as Sertoli cell or nurse cell because they are helping to give nourishment to growing spermatozoa. Now, apart from this seminiferous tubule, we have the, so this is like, this is an environment. So, so there is another spermatogonial cell here, then we have another one here, another one here. But then we have a space in between the two seminiferous tubules. This space is called interstitial space. So, this space is called interstitial space. Now, this interstitial space of the seminiferous tubules, around the seminiferous tubules are having a very specialized kind of cell. Sometimes those cells are called as interstitial cell because they are available in interstitial space. What? Otherwise, these cells are very unique. These cells are called as Leydig cell. Leydig cell. Now, Leydig cells are also otherwise called as interstitial cells because they are available in the interstitial space. Now, the important aspect about this Leydig cell is they are involved in secreting the hormones important for male reproductive system. So, they are responsible for release of androgens, what we call androgens. Androgens are nothing but the hormone involved in the maturation of the male reproductive system, or the hormone which are basically defining the male characteristic feature of a human being. So, androgens are secreted by this interstitial cell. So, these interstitial cells are also, so these are situated in this interstitial space, otherwise they are called as Leydig cell. So, these are the cellular organization of the seminiferous tubules. Let us go and see in the slide that what are the distinct feature of a seminiferous. Same thing what we discussed here, we will try to discuss in the slide form. So, let us try to see this diagrammatic representation of seminiferous tubules. So, we have this seminiferous tubule here. So, this is seminiferous tubule, and this tubule is lined by these cells which we are calling the spermatogonial cell or spermatogonia. Now, this spermatogonia cell is basically developing into this mature cells and then migrating towards the central cavity which we are calling lumen, and this lumen is having nothing but a small hole and giving passage to this matured spermatozoa. So, this is nothing but the mature spermatozoa coming into the lumen side, and what we say that we have certain kind of a very specialized cell in this area that is always associated with this spermatogonial cell in order to provide nourishment, and this is a specialized cell which are there in this area to provide nourishment is what we call Sertoli cell. So, this Sertoli cell is nothing but the nourishment provider, that is why these are also called as nurse cell. So, these cells are actually giving nourishment to the maturing cells. In between this two seminiferous tubules, what we discussed that these are the specialized cell located in between the area or in between the two tubules, and these are called as interstitial cells, or otherwise they are also called as Leydig cells, and these Leydig cells are nothing but the secretor of male reproductive hormones. So, they are secreting a very specialized kind of hormones which are called androgens, and these androgens are basically controlling the male reproductive system. So, we can simply say that male reproductive hormones. So, hormones are nothing but the controller of the male behavior and all. Now, so this is in total about this seminiferous tubule. So, of course, we have in between we have this artery that is supplying blood to the to this particular area. So, this is in total about the same what we discussed in just few minutes ago about the seminiferous tubules. So, let us try to look into the female reproductive system now. So, in female reproductive system, we will try to see and discuss about the details of the female reproductive organs and how this female reproductive organs are basically controlling the female behavior, particularly in terms of reproduction of the new individuals. So, let us start the female reproductive system. So, female reproductive system is basically a combination of the organs situated in the pelvic cavity. So, definitely these all organs are located in pelvic cavity. Now, the main reproductive, the female reproductive part is a pair ovary. So, the pair ovary, the two basic unit of the female reproductive system in both left and right side, left and right ovary is the basic unit of the female reproductive system. This ovary is continued into a ductal system that is called fallopian tube. Fallopian tube, or this is also called as oviduct. Oviduct. This oviduct is merging to an area that is called uterus. Uterus. And ultimately, this uterus is continued into an area that is called cervix. And last external genitalia is there, but before that external genitalia, cervix is continued into what we call vagina. And that finally, it is terminating into the external opening in the female reproductive system. So, let us see the one all this organ system in the slide form. So, if we go to the slide, we have this ovary 2 in number, we have oviduct because both the ovaries are coming from both the sides. So, there are 2 ovaries and then 2 oviducts that is continuing into cervix. Cervix is continuing to a vagina, and then there is an external genitalia. So, here is the schematic representation of the female reproductive system. So, here the red mark is what we are calling ovary, and this ovary is both left and right. So, we have left ovary and also we have right ovary. Now, this ovary is continued in the form of this tubular structure, and this tubular structure is called fallopian tube. Fallopian tube. So, we will see the detail of this fallopian tube in our further discussions. And this fallopian tube is merging to this area that is called uterus. And this uterus is having opening, the final terminal part of this uterus is called cervix, and this cervix is basically continued into this long tube like structure which is called vagina, and this vagina is getting external opening in the form of external genitalia, and this external genitalia is lined by a flap like structure outside. So, this is outer flap like structure, and then we have this inner flap like structure. The outer flap like the thick area is called labia majora, and the inner area is called labia, or sometimes it is also called as labium minora. So, labium majora is outside containing inner side of labia minora. So, and then of course, we have a flap like structure here that is called clitoris, and this is a very sensitive organ in the female reproductive system. The vagina is lined by a very thin membrane, and this thin membrane is called hymen. So, this is kind of a protector of the vaginal cavity, which is sometimes ruptured during in the course of insemination. So, these are in nutshell the female reproductive system and the parts associated with it when we are taking a cross section. And if you see in the back side, this is nothing but the part of digestive system. So, this is nothing but the large intestine part, large intestine. Here one thing is very clear, that we have another structure coming in the side of the female reproductive system, and this is nothing but the urinary system. So, these are urinary bladder. Urinary bladder. So, this urinary bladder is continued into this urethra, and this is a common passage for both female reproductive system and the urinary system, which what we discuss in the male reproductive system also. So, there is a common opening for both male reproductive system and female reproductive system with the urinary system. So, that is why we are calling it urogenital system. So, the opening for male reproductive system and urinary system is same, that is why we are calling urogenital system. Very similar kind of a structure available in the female body also, where the uterus and the associated structure is basically communicating outside with the urinary bladder, and that is why here also we are calling urogenital system in case of females. So, this is all about the female reproductive part grossly. Let us try to see the actual individual part of ovary and how these are kind of build up in context of the actual picture. So, this is the schematic representation of the female reproductive part. So, we have this ovary, and this is what is 2 in number. So, one is left and other is right, and this ovary is continued into this tube like structure, and this tube is collectively called as fallopian tube. Otherwise, they are also called as oviduct, because they are carrying the ova, that is why they are called as oviduct. Now, there are 3 distinct areas in this oviduct. So, ova is getting formed in this ovary, and this ova is coming and trapped by this finger like projection in the beginning of this oviduct. So, this finger like projection is called as fimbriae, and this fimbriae is continued into another curved area, that is called ampulla, and this ampulla is continued into another area which is called isthmus. So, this isthmus, ampulla and fimbriae are collectively called as fallopian tube, because these are the parts associated with the fallopian tube. So, this isthmus is getting continued into uterus. So, this is body of uterus. So, this part is body of uterus, and here in the bottom of uterus what we call is cervix, and this cervix is getting continued into vagina. So, this whole area, this uterus is the area where the fetus is getting developed, and these are the cavity. So, this is cavity of uterus. So, basically this is in nutshell about the complete picture of the female reproductive system. Let us try to understand this thick area. So, this area of uterus is basically having 3 layers. This is outside, this is middle, and this is the inner part. The inner part of the uterus is called endometrium. The middle part of the uterus is called myometrium, and the outer part is called, because it is outside, so that is why it is called as perimetrium. So, perimetrium, myometrium and endometriums are the layer of uterus from outside to inside. Now, the system is evolved in such a way that this myometrium is giving strength. So, this is full of smooth muscle cell. So, myometrium is full of smooth muscle cell, smooth muscle, while this inner side, the endometriums, are very specialized structure available in the uterus, and they are kind of very important at the time of menstrual cycle, which is the normal physiological cycle. So, this is about the female reproductive system. Now, apart from female reproductive system, there is lot of or accessories organs associated with the female reproductive system, and one such organ is mammary gland. So, let us try to see the mammary gland. So, mammary glands are the two glandular part hallmark of a female mammals. So, the female reproductive system, always the female mammals actually that can feed their babies are having two mammary glands in either side of their chest cavity. So, either left, one is left and the other is right side. So, if we see grossly the picture of a mammary gland, it's a bulky area filled with the fat globules. So, if we draw a female mammary gland, so we have here lot of fat bodies are there, fat globules are there, fatty structures are there. It's acting as a cushion in order to provide a protection, because this is also a very sensitive organ. Now, this fat is getting continued. So, actually there is a lobes available. So, there are 12 to 15 to 20 lobes are available in each mammary gland either side, otherwise they are also called as breast cells or breast gland. So, this breast is having very specific tubules, or we are simply called as lobes. So, they have specific lobes, we are calling mammary lobes, and these lobes are having large. So, this is kind of a big lobe, and then similarly we have lot of lobes. I am just drawing it in a bigger form in order to get a proper understanding. So, this is a individual lobe of this mammary gland. This individual lobe of mammary gland is having a very specific small alveoli, we are calling it alveoli, or we can simply call it mammary alveoli, because these are the actual area where milk is produced. So, alveoli is the area, very specifically these all alveoli are the area where milk is produced, and that milk is getting secreted from the small ductal system. So, these are connected with a small duct. So, we can simply call it mammary ducts, and this duct is kind of converging in a broader area. We are calling that broader area as ampulla. Ampulla. So, this ampulla is nothing but the merged area of this ductal system of the mammary gland, and this all ampullar ductal system is kind of continued in the form of what we are calling as an lactiferous duct. Lactiferous duct. So, lactiferous duct is nothing but the duct that can provide or can eject the milk from the mammary gland. So, this mammary gland, otherwise called as breast, is having this specific kind of other internal structure such as fat, such as lobes, which are 12 to 15 in number. These lobes are having lot of small cellular globular structure called alveoli that is giving actual production of milk, and this is connected outside in the form of mammary duct, and this duct is continued into an area which is kind of a broader in length, and that is called ampulla, and this ampulla is continued into lactiferous duct, and the duct is getting an outside opening in the form of nipple. So, this is all about the accessory gland, accessory mammary gland, that is a hallmark feature of a female mammal. So, now one important thing we need to understand here, that in mammary gland, if we see this area around nipple area, we have always a high or dark pigmentation. very dark pigmented area, and this dark pigmented area around nipple is having large deposition of melanin pigment. So, this is dark area and this is called areola. So, dark covered area around the nipple is called areola. So, these are some of the parts associated with the mammary gland. Next slide, we have this. These are the parts of mammary gland. So, we have mammary lobes, mammary alveoli, mammary duct or ducts, ampulla, lactiferous duct, and finally coming out from nipple area. So, this is a complete picture of the female mammary gland. Let us try to move on to gametogenesis, that means formation of gamete. So, what is there in the gamete? We have male gamete in the form of sperm. So, we have sperm as a male gamete and we have ova as a female gamete. So, this process of gametogenesis we are calling spermatogenesis. So, spermatogenesis is the formation of sperm, and oogenesis is what we discussed earlier also, is the formation of ova. Now, we will see that what are the difference of this spermatogenesis procedure, right? What are the steps involved in this spermatogenesis? We will try to understand here. Now, before going, let us try to see the whole gametogenesis process. So, we will try to cover this into two individual sections. One is male gamete formation and then we will discuss about the female gametes. Now, in the sperm, the primordial cell, so we are calling, suppose this is a initial cell, we will see in the diagrammatic representation later on, but the initial cell is what we are calling as a primordial cell. We are calling it primordial cell. This primordial cell is there in the human body, particularly we are talking about male. So, we will simply write this is all male reproductive system. So, this primordial cell is there and this is migrating to the testis at the time of puberty. So, till 12 to 15 years of age, this primordial cell is getting incubated inside the body and finally, it is getting transmitted or transported to the testes. So, this primordial cell is coming to the testis and after coming to the testis, what we are calling this as a spermatogonial cell. So, spermatogonial cell is the next form of primordial cell. So, this spermatogonial cell are dividing equationally. So, there is no change in the chromosome number. So, whatever chromosome number is there, that will simply transmitted to the next generation. So, they will ultimately divide into the other form by mitotic division. So, there is a mitosis going on in order to make another cell. Now, the chromosome number is constant. So, the cells which are formed by a continuous mitotic division will be ultimately forming a primary spermatocyte. So, primary spermatocyte. Cyte means cell, spermato means the one that is going to form the sperm, spermatozoa actually. So, this primary spermatocyte is now starting a reductional division. So, I will just delete this part, so as to create some more space and then we will see it in the form of a diagrammatic representation. So, this primary spermatocyte is going to undergo a process called meiotic 1 and meiotic 1 will give a secondary spermatocyte. So, we will eventually get two cells and these two cells are having half the chromosome number what was there earlier in the primary spermatocyte. So, the primary spermatocyte will be converted into secondary spermatocyte by meiotic division 1, and in this case we will get 2 secondary spermatocyte having the half chromosome number as what was there in the primary spermatocyte. This secondary spermatocyte will undergo the second meiotic division, and then second meiotic division will eventually give the 4 spermatids. So, these are actually 4 spermatids coming after. This is meiotic 1 and this is meiotic 2. So, meiotic 2 division will basically give the 4 spermatid, and these 4 spermatids will eventually undergo differentiation to form a mature spermatozoa. So, this is spermatozoa because they have a flagella. So, this is what is going to be there in the developmental cycle. So, we will try to see this whole picture in the form of a diagrammatic representation in our slides. So, if you see in the slides, so this is the complete picture of the division taking place inside the spermatogonial cell and all. So, the first cell what is here is called primordial cell. So, primordial cells are there, and this primordial cells are getting migrated in testes in the form of spermatogonial cell. So, this is nothing but spermatogonial cells, and this is happening from birth to 12 to 15 years of age, and by the time one is reaching puberty, the spermatogonial cell in the testes is getting matured and dividing to form a primary spermatocyte. So, primary spermatocyte is what is going to be formed after the actual mitotic division. So, mitotic division will form the primary spermatocyte. Now, this primary spermatocyte will undergo meiotic 1 division to form secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocyte, and this secondary spermatocyte will undergo meiotic 2 division to form spermatid, and this spermatid will eventually differentiate into spermatozoa. So, this is a complete process of the developmental stage of the cells in the testicular area. Of course, we are discussing about the male cell here, and similarly we will discuss about the female system also. So, in the male system it starts with the primordial cell and it is going to form the spermatozoa. The only difference here that this whole process started with the equational division. So, here the chromosome number is constant, and after that the chromosome number is getting half. So, here there is full and then individual chromosome number is getting half. So, here we have 2n number of chromosome and here we have n number of chromosome. So, this is reductional division. So, this is meiotic 1, the first reductional division, and then we have second division, and from one cell we are getting 4 spermatid formed from a single primary spermatocyte. So, these things we need to remember, that a single primary spermatocyte is going to form 4 spermatid, ultimately forming 4 spermatozoa, and the chromosome number is half the earlier number. So, this is all about the male reproductive development, the formation of a sperm from a spermatogonial cell. So, this is what is a reductional division taking place in case of germ cells. So, we are also calling it a germ cell. The similar biology is taking place in case of female reproductive system also, where we have formation of ova by a process called oogenesis. So, we will discuss about the oogenesis in our next class.